Hey everyone, Honest Hughie here. Hopefully you haven't had a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm just going to make a video now covering a topic that I want to talk about, and it's really why they won't make movies like they used to make them. Now, Chris Stuckmann, a YouTuber I watch, he did a video on it, and he said he covered a lot of stuff, and it's going to be, some of the stuff I'm going to cover. And I agree with a lot that he said. And I was just like, you know what, I may as well make my own video on it, my own opinion. And I'm going to start now, really. And it goes into a few things, what I want to see from Hollywood movies or just movies in general, movies released. And I'll start with the first thing that is stopping them making the movies. Like, for instance, the movies I'll go over. I won't go over, but like the movies I mentioned, like for an example, White Chicks, watched the other day. And it was hilarious. And as much as the jokes were dated, and but most of the jokes would have got them in trouble. Now, like you look at it now, like I went and watched that years ago, right? I was a kid. It was a 12A, and I went and watched it, and loved it. Thought it was funny as, yeah, terrifying, right? But funny. And then, but if I think about it now, if they made it a 12A now, they wouldn't get away with it now. The amount of times they say like the N word in it, the amount of times they make like rude jokes, and you don't see anything, but the amount of like what to talk about and like sex and stuff like that, like it'd be 15 and it'd probably be outraged. Like there's a certain scene where they're in the car and obviously they're all white and they have a song on and it says that word in it, and they go, well, obviously them two are two black guys dressed in as white women, and they go, oh, you know, they say the word, and they're like, well, you can't say that word, blah blah blah, and they're like, well, no one's watching, and it's funny, but you watch it now and you're just like, oh, God, how did this get put on at the movies? But then you think about it, back then everyone was chill, everyone was quite chill. Now, don't get me wrong, I agree with certain things that shouldn't be said in movies, certain things, you know, like for me, like movies that sort of are a bit like, oh, you saw, for instance, or that one where you're going, ha, gay, like that. That I wouldn't find funny now. Back then, I would, but now, not really. Even back then, I didn't like for instance, a good movie to go over is Superbad. It's a good movie, but that was on at the movies. And obviously, I was too young to watch it, so I had to get it at home. Which is another thing I'm going to go over. But what it is with Superbad is I watch it now and I'm like, I don't really find it that funny. It is quite like there, but again, I can see where people are coming from with the whole cancel culture thing. It is too much. As much as I can't be a bit biased because I don't really like the movie. It's not that I don't like the movie. I think it's dated. It's a bit sort of overdone for me, overrated. It's a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just not there. It's not that hype. Um, but the actors in it are good, and that's what makes it really makes the movie. Because the story is just about them getting alcohol for a party. Let's face it, and trying to get laid. That's pretty much it. So really, that's one of the main reasons is cancel culture nowadays, and the main thing as well to add to that cancel culture bit is studios like DC, Marvel are kind of getting the gist of it. Sony too. Fantastic examples of the movies they've released. They will not do R-rated movies. Like not as R-rated. Like for instance, I'll start with Marvel, and I'll go over Endgame and Infinity War. Now, Infinity War was the one where obviously revolves in Infinity War. Thanos, we all know, wins, snaps his fingers. All of our heroes we love turn dust, and it ends. Ends with him winning, sitting on his throne, winning, right? Surrounded by them pink flamingo birds, which me and my fiance had a little theory that that's what they've turned into. They've all turned into flamingos. They were cute, mind, but that is quite dark. The recent Spider-Man that's come out, I'll just say it's dark. It's, you know, it's a close 12A, especially with the violence. Like, you know, he has bruises on him. He has like his eyes all bloodshot. You know, it's quite violent, and no, for a Marvel movie, it's a 12A, and that's the closest we're going to get with that universe. Now, I'm not saying make the universe R-rated where there's blood and guts, but I'm saying them two movies are my top tier movie lists out of their movies. That because it's different, it's refreshing. Whereas you look at Endgame and you look at how that starts, and it just, don't get me wrong, it's a brutal beginning. They could, you know, cut Thanos' head off, but which I'll go into that why I thought that was a bad move. Just to bring Thanos back again, it was just a terrible move. The time travel, and it went down instead of a dark sort of the ones who were left. They had, like, Robert Downey Jr. had a family, right? He had kids. He had a wife. You know, yeah, Hawkeye lost his family, but he was still getting by considering they all had the things. Yes, the main ones were missing that we want. Obviously, Tom Holland, the main one I want back, and you know, Bucky. But what I felt with that movie was they didn't really have the balls to sort of like have. They didn't not so much have the balls, but didn't have the stakes. Stakes weren't high enough. For instance, all the ones that remained, it should have been a simple case of killing all of them off, not just one, and having Steve Rogers go back in time and have a romantic dance. See what I mean by it? Romantic dance with Peggy, because it has to have that little bit of lightheartedness. I'm not saying that I'd be happy if the movie went really dark, but I would be quite impressed, like with the last one. Like, for instance, all the ones that remained, you know, when Tony had that vision and they're all dead. If that came true, to bring them all back. Let's say they are really, it was Thanos, there was no new Thanos, it was the original Thanos we seen, and he didn't destroy the stones, because really you can't destroy the stones. It messes everything up if you do that as well. There's something about the stones that keeps sort of, as he goes on, the balance. And if you destroy even one stone, wrecks everything. So he said, oh, the stones are atoms. They're not. They're not. He had them somewhere. You know, it wouldn't have worked like that. Put it this way, he wouldn't be there. You seen when the fight at the end, there's the stone, the strength stone, and where thingy, I've totally gone blank on the name. I totally apologise, but I'll say Marvel's version of Wonder Woman. You'll know what I mean. Captain Marvel. There we go. Hey, Captain Marvel. When she comes into it for like a brief second and then just leaves him to it because she wants to save her own planet. What about Earth? Anyway, and Thanos uses a stone, doesn't he? This is kind of more of like an Endgame review here. Anyway, he uses a stone, she punches the stone, and it shoots her back. And you can see the power from one stone. So imagine if you got all the stones and you tried to... Yeah, it made no sense. So it was a bit of a dumb move. And it really downgraded Thor, because I don't think he would have done that. Yeah, the arm, I agree. His arm would have been cut off. But then that's pointless now. But if he was going to do that anyway, he would have done that straight away. He would like the last one where he hit him, and it was like, yeah, it was like, you know, he should have went for the head. And I get they were doing a cheat, but it just didn't work for me. It just made me think, well, all that character development, you haven't even seen that Thanos cry. You've seen him tear up, and all that's thrown away to bring back this CGI rubbish looking Thanos, who literally is like, I don't know what you're on about. Like literally, he kills Vision. And Scarlet Witch is like, you took everything from me, and he goes, I don't know who you are. Imagine if it was the original Thanos, how that would feel. And there's one missed opportunity with that movie, again, because they don't want to go down that route, they don't want to go down that dark route. And it's where you see Red Skull. Like, why wasn't Steve Rogers there? Imagine if he's seen Red Skull. And imagine if, instead of them flinging themselves over and getting a soldier, imagine if he actually had to face Red Skull and beat him, or take the gem from him. And it was, he lied in the other one, like, oh no, you didn't have to fling her over really to get the stone. You could have just, fought me, you know, or sacrificed Steve Rogers to get that stone, since, he's pretty much done in it. But anyway, that's my rant on Avengers Endgame. That's a good example of one. Another example is, I say an example, that was an example slash review there, but another example is the Suicide Squads. Now, you watch the first Suicide Squad, and it's, don't get me wrong, it's brutal, but it's toned down. You can see it's just stuff where you look and you go, ooh, that's a bit too, they could have made it an 18. And the recent Suicide Squad was, don't get me wrong, there was brutal scenes in it, but it could have been so much more. I mean, you've got to remember, these are superheroes, but these are people who can, like, rip limbs off. These are people who can, like, there's a certain comic where Superman rips out the Joker's heart because he kills Lois Wayne, and that's the Batman versus Superman universe, as far as I'm aware. Oh no, the Justice League universe. And he rips out Joker's heart. Injustice, that's it, Injustice. And it's just, imagine seeing that on the big screen. Just imagine that now. You never get away with it now. Not without it being animated. Even the 3D animation would do, but they've gone down the route of, they're doing a cartoon version of it now. See, that's what I mean by this thing. They won't do a live action because they're afraid that they'll lose a load of money. Imagine if this Robert Pattinson, who's doing a Batman movie now, the Riddler's in it, still 15, but it's just a simple case that they're so worried that they're going to lose so much money that they won't do it, but they'll make it back easy. And what I want them to do is a proper Joker movie. Now, they released Joker, that felt toned down. It was an 18 as well. Or was it a 15? Might have been a 15. And that felt toned down. That felt just not there. When you look at the comic book Joker, and you look at the ones we've had on the big screen in the movies, put aside the cartoons, put aside, the live action ones, in other words. The closest one we got was, as much as I did love Heath Ledger's, I still didn't think that was Joker. It was more just his acting I was impressed with. And the same goes with the recent one we had with Joaquin Phoenix. But the best Joker, and I think it was a 15 at the time when I released it, was the original Batman, where he goes to shake his hand and his hand comes off, and he has the flower that squirts it out. Jack Nicholson, there we go. Can I forget his name? Jack Nicholson, best Joker. He had the smile in, even though it was white. That smile, like, was a proper cheek smile. Like, he could pull a face, and he'd even paint his face. He wasn't fully pale. He even painted his face because he could take the paint off, but he'd still have the smile. And he'd still have that Joker personality. He was just, I mean, obviously Jack Nicholson's awesome anyway, but he was just good. And what I want to see now, which is why I'm talking about this video, before it gets too late, is to have a Willem Dafoe Joker. Because certain scene in the new Spider-Man, you'll see, it's just Joker. It's literally Joker, and you're just like, I need him as Joker. So DC, do it. And for instance, it works because Logan was an 18, R-rated 18, brutal, right? Absolutely brutal. Didn't hold back. Loads of swearing, which is funny as, especially even Sir Patrick Harris swearing, it's funny as. Stewart even. Like, Patrick Harris? It was just funny as seeing him swear and, like, just not give a shit, in other words. And it was really good, and that made loads. Deadpool, look at that. Look at the jokes in Deadpool. That made loads. They just don't realise that they could have gone down a totally different route and it would still work. But the reason they won't do movies like White Chicks anymore and they won't do movies. Like Eight-Legged Freaks is one. Scream, they are bringing out a new Scream, but why it's took them so long to do one is because these type of movies, i.e. like the Adam Sandler movies, used to be released in cinemas. It's now straight to Amazon or Netflix. And they lose so much now because it used to be Blockbuster. So they do it, even if it wasn't at cinemas long, get a video of it, you rent it, they get like a percentage. But now there's no more. I mean, who would buy a video now? Like, I wouldn't buy a video or DVD. Not really. I'd have it on Amazon or Netflix. And it is what's done it. That's like the main thing is people now don't go to the movies anymore, especially with like what's going on at the moment. But even before, what we've got going on now, I was looking at the movies and I was like, I'm guilty of it. I used to say to Shell, oh, we'll watch that later. That'll be on Netflix soon. You know, and you're paying 30 a month for Netflix, and you're thinking, well, I'll just wait for that to come on there, and it does. Nigh on enough. 8 times out of 10, it does. And sometimes it's still for a week, and I'm like, oh, I'll watch it later, and it'll be gone. But like, there's a movie now, and it's Amazon original. Oh, excuse me, jeez. Just had some flavoured water. I do apologise for that. But there's a movie that's on Amazon, and it looks really good. It's got the guy out of Venom in. And it's released at the movies, but I'm not going to watch it in the movies because I've got Amazon Prime. Whereas if there was no Amazon Prime, and that was just getting released at the movies, and maybe a DVD at a Blockbuster, I'd possibly either go to the movies, this is putting aside what we're in now, go to the movies, I'd watch it, or I'd go to Blockbuster and I'd rent it. You know what I mean? Like don't get me wrong, it's better, it's more convenient, it's easy, it's way better, it's way cheaper, but you can see why they always try and copy and paste movies now. Like once you've seen one of the new ones in the movies, they feel the same. The closest they got to getting out of like something different was the beginning of Shanghai, which was the bus scene. That was something original and quite back to basics I hadn't seen in a few years. Especially of him like fighting and using the props around him. That was like a Jackie Chan movie. They won't do them. They go straight to Amazon. They go straight to Netflix now. There's a recent Jackie Chan one, Real Steel or something. Never heard of it. Main one that maybe I never heard of the movies and I would have 100% went and watched was Good Samaritan with David Tennant in. I would have went and watched that in the movies. Me and she'll look at each other like, well, was it even out the movies? And it wasn't. I mean, no. I said that wrong then. It was at the movies. It just, also, another thing, advertising. They're not like they used to be. Used to be on billboards, used to be on bus stops, used to be on a TV. You do get movies, but not like it used to be. Like, that was not advertised at all well. You know, like there was no, new movies coming, you know, David Tennant said, David Tennant, you know what I mean? In 2018, David Tennant too. He was quite big then. He was doing Jessica Jones as well. So everybody was like quite hyped up for him. Another one with his British accent as well. But yeah, they just won't do him like that no more. And that's really what I wanted to cover in this video. Really, is that they're not the reason they don't. I think they need to sort of realise that they'll still make money doing these horror movies. They need to sort of change it because people are getting bored of these superhero sort of toned down movies where they could do a hell of a lot more. And really, main reason I'm making this video is because I want to see a proper Joker movie. I'm sick of these rubbish. Oh, let's have him real life Joker. No, just do the good comic Joker who laughs, who has his hand that comes off, the flower that can squirt water or acid depending on what you push, the gun that shoots bang, and then the bang can actually shoot out at them if you know, sometimes just a bullet, you know, like the pencil scene in the Batman movie. Heath Ledger with the petrol scene. Well, technically that was one as well when he burnt all the money. Stuff like that, like has that potential of it's a Joker movie. I can't remember if that was a 12. I think it was a 12A still. Again, they still toned it down. Like Batman when he fights people, even Batman when he fights people, he breaks bones, he snaps fingers, he busts jaws, he smacks teeth out of people, he's not as clean as they make it look in these movies. Like the games are a fantastic example of how he fights. He breaks arms and stuff. Like the last game they made was an 18, and it was brilliant. It was so good, and I was thinking to myself, it was more like a movie. And imagine seeing that on the big screen, or even as a show, and they just won't do it. They just don't have the balls to go there no more. Whereas I'm thinking about 10 years ago, maybe if there was like sort of if the thought comic movie would do good, because never really thought superhero movie would do good really, not like Avengers or anything like that. Oh no, take it back. 10 years ago, the start of the Avengers. 15 years ago, we go. Well, it was only just Avengers taken off, wasn't it? Before, yeah, but oh god, it'd be 15 years. God, I feel old now. I'm old. They probably would have done a proper Joker movie, because that's when like for instance, like when doing like what's coming out 2000, like Halloween. When they did Halloween, they redid it. It was amazing. So yeah, I just wanted to cover that topic and really do something a little bit different, because there's not much to review, and I was kind of thinking, well, there's only so many like reviews you can do, and I want to mix it up a bit. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna get going now because I'm gonna go and play Rage 2. So yes, that is why I think the problem with movies is the main reason. I think it's cancel culture. Um, I think that's the main reason why they don't make them like they used to, and that there's Amazon and Netflix, and that's where they go now, and they don't get any profit from that. We get like a tiny bit. So yeah, right. That's on his Chewy going out. I will see you in the next one. Bye. If I can get it to stop recording when I push it, stop.